Hello, it's Big Cheds. I'm back with another chapter in my battles with cancer. This is a patient and caregiver's candid memoir. This is my story fighting cancer, beating cancer, and then taking care of my mother, and then mourning her loss after she passed. And I wrote my book to help myself process what I went through and also to help others who are maybe going through a similar experience. I published it on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, and audiobook, along with my other titles, Trading Quotes, Trading Wisdom, of course, and Big Cheds on Twitter. But I'm doing this for free on YouTube at Cheds Trading, one chapter at a time. We are getting towards the end of the book. This is The Gift. And let's get right into it. The Gift. Symphony time also means holiday time, and with those key dates of Thanksgiving and Christmas fast approaching, I found myself becoming more emotional. This would be the first year without Mom. Helping to make the holidays so special every year, Mom would always have such a warm and loving celebration at her house. With that prospect gone for good, I was left with a deep void in my heart. Thanksgiving was a low-key affair. We had some friends and family over to my place before traveling out of state to spend some time with my wife's friends. And as we visited her friends, it was an opportunity for me to reflect on everything that has happened since my cancer diagnosis. Adding to the mix, I seem to be viewing most things through a lens of anger and frustration. Every time I got close to the emotion, close to remembering her face, I lashed out, thinking she was just here and now she's gone. I was simply unwilling to accept my new reality. Burying my head in this book and the editing process was painful, but it was also healthy. Forcing myself to edit over and over again the chapters about watching her die helped me grow and to become stronger. Onward we push, I resolutely said to myself as a way to keep going when I was worn down and over encumbered by emotion. I believed that I had no choice but to complete this task. After brushing my teeth on a Sunday afternoon before Christmas, I took a long look in the mirror, and it hit me suddenly just how much I looked like my mom. Staring at my face, I could almost see her face. The contours of my eyes, nose, and cheekbones all seemed to remind me of her and left me feeling warm and fuzzy as I reconnected with her memory. Walking downstairs and into the kitchen, I continued to think about Mom and the holidays, and I then remembered that my aunt was going to be around this year and that I could go spend time with her, and that made me feel a little bit better as we were both missing Mom so badly. My aunt and I have always been so close, and we talk from time to time, and since Mom's passing, we've often leaned on each other while mourning. My body was really sore that day from snow blowing and shoveling, so I decided to take a nice long dip in the hot tub to relax. On this particular day, it was rather windy, so as I laid in the hot tub with my feet up, I loosened my mind and marveled at the sight of the trees swaying back and forth in my yard. My view then shifted to the sky, and I watched patiently as the clouds marched across the stratosphere. What stood out to me was just how fast they seemed to be moving. The whole scene that lay before me was gorgeous, and for some reason it reminded me of a movie that I had recently watched. What I remembered from that movie was a scene where a major character was at the end of his life, laying down on the grass and looking up at the sky before he was about to be executed. Through his eyes, the camera showed a beautiful landscape with birds playfully flying around to the backdrop of soft, fluffy clouds in a serene blue sky. I kept trying to remember the name of this film as I laid in the hot tub looking up at my beautiful scene. I was waxing philosophical and pondering the very nature of the universe. After a while, I decided to check my phone, and a small message flashed across the screen indicating that I'd missed a call and voicemail. And I checked that number, and it was my aunt, the very same one I had thought about earlier in the day. And I saw that she tried to call me 3 times and had left a voicemail. After listening to the voicemail, I was surprised to hear that my aunt was apologizing for missing my phone call. She explained that she was on the other line with Comcast trying to fix a problem with her internet. And this voicemail confused me as I had been in the hot tub thinking about the nature of the universe, and I certainly had not called anyone. The fact that my aunt called me was not a surprise in and of itself, given that I had been thinking about her, and I do have some form of ESP. I quite often will think of people before they call me. What did surprise me was her message, so I called her right back to get to the bottom of this mystery. Before I could get a word in, she apologized for not taking my call again. When I told her that I didn't call her, her response floored me. She emphatically told me that she had been on the phone with Comcast when that call dropped, and she heard me in a clear voice saying, "Hello, this is your nephew calling," and then the phone went silent. Comcast called her right back, and when she answered the phone, they said that they had been disconnected from her, but they didn't know why. So basically, my aunt was telling me that she heard my voice, and I believed her. And furthermore, somehow her call with Comcast was physically interrupted and dropped. What could have caused that, I wondered? Some kind of psychic energy, perhaps? Basically, speechless after her comments, I double-checked my phone, and I confirmed that I had 3 missed incoming calls and 0 outgoing calls to her. Emphasizing my case, I told her that I didn't call her and I had been in the hot tub the whole time. And despite my intense protests, she didn't believe me because she had heard my voice loud and clear through her phone. Pleading my case further, she relented. And though I told her that I too believed her account, even though I could not logically explain how it might be possible, both she and I were at a complete loss for words. Reason failed me when I tried to think of and verbalize a rational explanation for what had happened. We talked a little bit more, and I told her about seeing Mom's features in my face while looking in the mirror and feeling Mom's energy just before remembering that she, my aunt, would be around for the holiday. And eventually what we both decided was that Mom had been watching over us, knew I was feeling lonely, and wanted us to talk. Mom found a way to connect us by somehow tapping into the energy of the phone call from beyond the grave. What a gift. In the immediate aftermath of that event, I found myself re-examining things. I was more open to the supernatural and in general to signs that Mom really was still with me in some form or another. I often looked for her in nature as we shared a love for the outdoors, wondering if she was living with the clouds or floating with the wind that moved the trees in my yard. Even when it snowed, I wondered if some part of her was inside each flake of snow, gently floating down from the heavens. This was the first winter without Mom. Some of my fondest memories are from waking up in her house when I was a young boy and looking out the window with her at the majesty of the snow-covered tree canopies. In my memories, she's always standing next to me with a cup of tea in her hand and a warm hat on her head. As a young man in my 20s, I also lived back at home for a period in time. And then, too, we enjoyed many wonderful snowy New England mornings together when life was simple and it seemed like Mom was going to live forever. The holiday season was good overall, and we made the best of it, but it was not as good as it could have been, of course. As I said before, holiday time is symphony time for me, and in the course of a month, I attended 4 concerts, twice by myself, once with my dad and once with my daughter. The first of these trips was incredibly emotional for me, as I remembered so vividly going to that wonderful concert with Mom, and to this very day, I still cry when I hear any of the pieces from that performance. After my first time back, it got a little bit easier emotionally, and my dad and I enjoyed a wonderful Beethoven symphony together. However, the most fun came when I took my little girl to the symphony for the first time. My daughter was the toast of the town as I proudly paraded her around the building before the concert began. Along the way, we were constantly stopped by the elderly attendees complimenting her outfit. It was an absolute pleasure to show her off, and at the same time, a joy to expose her to the majesty of the experience. And I hoped to make a tradition of it going forward. Once the lights flashed, it was time to start the performance, and we were directed to our seats, front row and center, with a grand piano as our neighbor. And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous about how my daughter would act, given that it was her first symphony and we were so close to the stage. But to my delight, she acquitted herself like a lady. She even received a compliment from one of the cellists after the performance was over. It was a pleasure to bathe myself in this wonderful music. But after 4 trips to the symphony, I pretty much got that out of my system, and I decided to return my focus to matters at home. We lucked out with the weather, and with a few days in the 40s here and there, I was able to get ahead on the springtime yard cleanup. Beyond just blowing leaves off the property, I was cutting the tree line and making up for decades of neglect. This activity provided me with pile after pile of brush for the fire pit. Each raging fire offered me an opportunity to step out of my day-to-day problems and to wax philosophically while I communed with nature, becoming completely mesmerized by the red, yellow, and orange flames curling up and dissipating into the air among the swirling wisps of white-gray smoke. I thought more about the gift when Mom reached out from the afterlife and connected my aunt and I, and how immediately afterwards I felt so good and was open to the supernatural. Thinking about it now, it was so hard for me to tap back into that feeling as I was jaded by sadness and regret. The moment that happened was compelling and profound, so I felt good about my decision to include it in this cancer memoir as a true blue, raw, and real human moment. Speaking of this book, by the warmth of the fire, I thought about how hard I had been working on it as of late. I thought about how I had been taking out extraneous paragraphs and doing my best to smooth out the delivery of the story. More or less, I was working on the flow, but also some emotionally difficult chapters. That was for sure taking its toll on me. As a carrot on a stick, so to speak, I thought about the joy that publishing it would bring me, about how fantastic it would feel to hear back from those that I had hoped to reach with my words. And that is what kept me pushing. There was just 5 months to go until I planned to publish, and 5 months to go until I reached that 2-year post-treatment benchmark. As the flames flickered in the air, I thought about the fact that I could not let my guard down yet. Looking into the burning coals for inspiration, I determined that the best thing I could do was to stay in the moment and take each day for the wonderful blessing it was. Next chapter is 2-year mark. We're getting right up to the end. This is my battles with cancer. This is my story, fighting cancer, surviving cancer, and being a caregiver for my mother as she fought cancer, and then mourning her loss after she passed and trying to put it all into perspective. The book's available on Amazon with my other titles, Trading Quotes and Trading Wisdom, and Big Cheds on Twitter. I'm doing the book for free here on YouTube at Cheds Trading. I want it to be available to anyone. It's what drove me. It's my mission. It's what I've always planned to do, and I'm proud that I'm almost done recording this. So thank you. I appreciate you making it this far, and I will be back with another chapter soon. Take care.